At 190 pounds. Dwayne Goldman at 190 pounds lost once. He lost twice at 177 pounds. He's had a spectacular career, Mark. He's been undefeated this year, only 10 season losses, but for some reason he snake bit in these finals. What do you think about today?
Well, I think he's certainly going to be prepared, and having the Iowa crowd here, which is on its feet as he comes onto the mat, having the Iowa crowd may help him just get over the notch. On the other hand, you've got a very talented young guy from Oklahoma that won the tournament last year, Dan Shade, and he's no slouch. He owns a number of records in Oklahoma's illustrious record book for wrestling.
He really doesn't look that good, Dan Shade, but all of a sudden you get to the end of the match, and there he is. Here he is. He had a tough overtime win last night against Paul Deichel of Lehigh, so he will be a little more tired, perhaps, than Dwayne Goldman, who had a rather easy match last night.
These guys have wrestled each other beyond the finals last year. They've wrestled each other in duels both years. And both years in the dual meet between Oklahoma and Iowa, Goldman was the winner. Shade has a history of reversing his losses that he experiences in dual meets in the tournaments. This year he did it again on the way to the finals. As you said, he beat Deichel in the semifinals, and Deichel had beaten him in a dual meet. He also, in the Big 8 finals, beat Volker from Iowa State, whom he had lost to in the dual season.
It was interesting listening to that interview of Dwayne Goldman. He acted so calm, cool, and collected. You recall, Mark, a year ago, after he lost to Shade in the finals at 190 pounds, he practically went berserk. He does care immensely.
He cares an awful lot, and this is a real test, I think, of Dan Gable's coaching ability. When you have a young guy like this, it's tough.
We're going to run some basketball scores by you as we continue the match here in the first period, the first 3-minute period. Dwayne Goldman against Dan Shade. Kansas over Temple. That final. And Goldman in on Shade. And out of bounds, they'll move back to the center of the mat.
Gable has got to be coaching Goldman to really relax, because after you've been in the finals 3 times and lost, you begin to second-guess yourself. You know, you begin to say to yourself, maybe I'm not cut out to be a national champion.
It's something that Dan Gable has a little bit of experience to. The only match he lost in a fantastic career was in the NCAA final back in 1970 to Larry Owings of Washington. I was there for that match. It taught him a lot, said Gable, and he never lost another one, and he certainly did not the gold medal. We're beating a Soviet Union wrestler in Munich in '72, and he's very proud of Dwayne Goldman, but he would like to see Goldman get that elusive NCAA title. Dwayne's parents looking on, again, we'll repeat, it's such a family affair, wrestling, and so loved here in the state of Iowa.
Notice the way these two guys are pushing and shoving. They know each other so well. They know both of their moves. They've countered them. They've been in the mat a number of times, and therefore you see a lot of pushing and shoving, looking for that one golden opportunity that means so much.
It almost looks, Mark, as if you could change uniforms and you'd have the same wrestler.
They're both very powerful upper body. Notice how strong they are. They're big 90-pounders. These guys are pure muscle. The official warns both of them he wants more action, and that's a good call. The home crowd doesn't like it, but that is a good call. Neither wrestler's being very aggressive. There's Shade trying to shoot in on a double leg and almost had it, but they're out of bounds.
And then we're back to the center of the mat. 41 seconds remaining here in the first 3-minute period. There are 3 periods, of course, in wrestling. A 3-minute first period, followed by 2 2-minute periods. We have no score here between Goldman, who's trying to win for the first time in 4 appearances in the NCAA finals against Dan Shade, the defending champion from Oklahoma of a year ago. Very cautious, both of these wrestlers. This appreciative crowd, sophisticated crowd in terms of wrestling. They are literally, however, on the edge of their seat. They know this match could change dramatically within a given moment.
Both wrestlers have to watch a stalling call. The official's been asking them to wrestle. He may call them.
There is no score here in the first period. Goldman of Iowa won the flip. He chooses to start the second period from the down position, looking for that 1-point escape. There is no score as we enter the second period, and there's an early start there by Shade.
You might have saw Dan Shade's hands move just a little bit before the whistle, and that's enough. The official called him. He's got to be frozen on the whistle. There's Dan Shade's father.
He was in Oklahoma City a year ago to watch Dan Shade win the NCAA title at 190 pounds, hoping he can repeat, hoping his son can repeat against Dwayne Goldman once again.
Goldman makes it up to his feet, but Shade throws in a leg, and they go back down to the mat. That leg hooked in there can be a great device to control Goldman, and Shade will try and keep it in there, and you can see Goldman's trying to pick it out. He wants it out. Now he's got it out. He's in good shape.
Looking for the one-point escape. Shade staying with him. He gets it. Goldman scores first. Leads 1-0.
Very important point. That puts a little more pressure on Dan Shade as we go through the rest of the match. And of course, the officials out there, he's going to put some pressure on these guys. They've both been warned for stalling. Remember, if either of them is called again for stalling, they will be penalized 1 point.
Dan Gable. I wonder how many warnings he had for stalling, Mark.
Not too many.
They were rare indeed over his career. He's shouting encouragement to Dwayne Goldman. He wants that NCAA title. He's been there 3 times before and couldn't come up with it. Tries to get in on Shade, unable to do so. Crowd wants more action, even though it is a partisan Iowa crowd pulling for Dwayne Goldman.
The takedown is so important here. Here, Goldman's in. He's got his hands locked around a single leg. He's got to convert it. They're near the edge of the mat. He's got to keep him on the mat. There goes Shade. He's going to try and go outside. 2 points. He gets it. Big 2 points for Dwayne Goldman. Shade turned and kicked away, and that was a mistake, I think, at the edge of the mat. He could have hung in there and used a whizzer, used an arm overhook to prevent the takedown. But now Goldman's out 3-0 out in front.
It looked as though Shade was going to get it out of bounds. Goldman was able to get the 2-point takedown, and he has a 3-0 lead with 40 seconds remaining here in the second 2-minute period. Unbelievable story for Goldman. Doesn't like to talk about it, very cool and calm about it, but he has lost 3 times in the NCAA finals. Only 6 wrestlers, including Goldman, have ever got to the finals on 4 occasions.
There, the officials signaling illegal locked hands, and that will be, that was fingers, pulling fingers, and Dan Shade is penalized 1 point. Goldman picks up another point for pulling 1 finger back. When you attack the hands of your opponent, you have to attack all 4 of them.
I'll buy that. That has to smart. And Goldman now leads 4-0 with 25 seconds remaining here in the second period.
Boy, that's a tough call, too. That's a tough call for Dan Shade. That's going to put him really in the hole. He's got a lot of wrestling to do to catch up and get back in it.
The Marquis didn't debate it, nor did his coach.
No, I think it was probably a good call.
Clock is stopped. Now it's moving. They were a little late starting it. Less than 20 seconds remaining here in the second period. That is an official clock. Goldman over Shade, 4-1. Shade of Oklahoma. Goldman of Iowa trying to win that first NCAA title. And he's looking good. He leads 4-1 after 2. Ready now for the third period. Dwayne Goldman against Dan Shade. At the moment, it is Goldman with a pair of takedowns, leading Shade with 1 escape, 4-1. A little trouble with the clock, and we are about ready to go. And Shade will start in the down position. His option here in the final period, because it was Goldman who won the flip following the first period. And Shade, of course, looking for that escape, possibly the reversal.
Shade gets up to his feet. He's controlling the wrist and 1 point escape, 4-2. That's an important point. He didn't get ridden very long. There's not much riding time on the board, so that will not be a factor. Neither man will be worried about that.
We know this about Shade. He's tough. He'll come back. He came back last night against Paul Deichel of Lehigh to win in overtime.
Goldman slugging it out a little bit in there. Very physical. Both these guys brawling.
Shade has to get something happening.
Back in.
Meanwhile, the crowd is starting to get into it. They are beginning to smell a victory for the first time. Dan Gable looking on. He wants this victory for Goldman as much as Goldman wants it.
One of the interesting parts of this game is that Dan Shade has a good upper body technique, and he can throw, which means that if Shade were to get a good position, he might be able to throw Goldman and get back in the match. He needs a takedown to get tied.
And we're heading down to 1 minute remaining in the match. Shade trailing by 2. Oh.
That's a point for Dwayne Goldman. Big point, stalling call. They felt that Dan Shade was not wrestling aggressively. Very, very big match. Very big points.
Big point. That could be the decider. We're inside 1 minute.
Now a takedown doesn't tie it. Of course, if the match ended in a tie, they would go into overtime. Now he needs 3 points. A takedown's only worth 2.
Center.
An entire career on the line here for Dwayne Goldman. The crowd, listen to them. They're up on their feet. Many of them standing as we head to the final 30 seconds of this match. Dwayne Goldman has lost once at 190. He's lost twice at 177. He'd like to reverse it here at 190 and win that coveted NCAA championship. And he's looking good. He leads 5-2.
1 point for Dan Shade. Goldman now stalling.
Goldman stalling, and Shade picks up a point. Now a takedown would tie it. Final 10 seconds. Does Shade have it in him? 5 seconds remaining, and the only thing that's going to prevent Dwayne Goldman from winning at 190 pounds, the NCAA title, would be a quick takedown by Dan Shade. Shade looking for it. Dwayne Goldman has the monkey off his back. And he's not a demonstrative athlete, but you know, deep inside, it is churning. It must feel so good. 3 times he has been in the finals, only to come up empty. And what a suitable climax to a fantastic wrestling career for Dwayne Goldman. Off goes the air guard. Goldman has done it at 195. He is the NCAA champion.
Congratulations, Dwayne. A great win. Did you believe you could pull it off out there?
Yeah, I really thought I could, especially as the match won. I think I started off a little hesitant, just like I did in past years in the finals. And I really wanted to score some points early. And when that didn't happen, I think I was a little worried. But then my second concern, and practically my top concern, was coming out from underneath. I got out pretty well. And so then that was good. And at the end, I stalled a little bit, but, you know, that's fine as long as I win.
Did this wipe out the frustration that you felt over 3 years?
Yeah, right now, those past 3 are really the last thing on my mind. You know, I'll always remember them, obviously. You know, there was a lot of frustration, but now I know it's all worth it, you know. And so many times I had a hard time picturing myself winning, but now I'm so glad I did.
Well, congratulations. I'm sure your crowd is very proud of you. Frank?
Our congratulations also to Dwayne Goldman. You know, we're dealing with some strong, powerful athletes today. Well, we've known many of them over the years on Wide World of Sports. We're all proud at ABC as Wide World of Sports celebrates its 25th anniversary year. Right now, let's reflect on that.
The following ABC's Wide World of Sports anniversary feature is brought to you by Sheraton Hotels, Inns, and Resorts Worldwide.
Back in Iowa City, we are joining the heavyweights in progress. John Harapoulos of Iowa.
Live on the mat. These are heavyweights. You can see, though, that they're really aggressive heavyweights. They're not big, fat guys in the olden days. We had a lot of those. The score now 2-1 in favor of Trost from Michigan.
Harapoulos of Iowa State, and we're watching Kirk Trost of Michigan. And Trost beat a huge heavyweight, Gary Albright, to get into the finals, and that sets up a thought, because from now on in collegiate wrestling, if you weigh over 275, you're not going to be able to compete.
That's correct, Frank, and I think that's a wise move. We've had some giant heavyweights that we all remember, like Chris Taylor or Tab Thacker, but those guys, they're not great athletes many times, and they're slow and they're big. What we'd like to do is create a sport. I think that the wrestling community likes the aggressive heavyweights. We see guys out here that are real fine athletes. They're workers. Some of them are football players. They move well. They're quick. They're certainly guys we don't want to mess around with. If we would like them on our side in a fight.
Indeed. Trost leading Harapoulos at the moment. Harapoulos of Iowa State, Trost of Michigan, and we have 13 seconds remaining in this first period. Trost leading 2-1.
Both these guys pummeling, looking for the opportunity.
Heading to the end of the first period with Trost leading. Second period, Trost in the down position. He leads Harapoulos 2-1. Harapoulos had himself quite a match last night to get into the finals over Tom Erickson of Oklahoma State. He just won it in the final seconds. Surprise winner.
Trost is up on his feet, trying to peel those hands away. Gets it. That's 1 point from escape.
3-1 now. Trost over Heropoulos.
These guys will stay after each other. You notice it's more shooting, more action like the lower weights that we've just seen. Less pushing and shoving.
I got a question, though, Mark. I was in Munich when Chris Taylor won a bronze medal. That would not have happened under the existing rule, the new rule that prevents a wrestler from competing in the heavyweight division if he weighs over 275 pounds. How do you equate that with the new rule?
Well, that's the same thing. That's very true. I can't argue with it. And the international style, freestyle, has put in that rule as well. I think there's a real desire to keep the weight classes a little tighter when you have a 220-pound athlete going against a 420-pound athlete. You run the risk of injuries and all kinds of stuff that maybe isn't in the best interest of wrestling. The whole idea is to put a guy of equal size on the mat with his opponent and let him slug it out to determine the best wrestler.
We have seen over the years many slow, dull matches involving the huge heavyweights, some of them 300, some of them 400 pounds. What we're watching here tonight is John Heropoulos of Iowa State. In there at about 200 and what did you say, 225, 230 pounds? And it is Trost over Heropoulos, 3-1, 30 seconds remaining here in the second period.
Heropoulos got a single leg up in the air. He's got to convert it. He's got to watch that clock. He's in a little bit of trouble on the clock. Got to bring his opponent to the mat. Hasn't done it. Trost doing a good job defensing. Kicked out. No points. No points.
Out of that very nicely. Trost, who really surprised everyone last night, has surprised everyone in getting into the finals. Right now he leads Heropoulos 3-1 with just a few seconds remaining here in the second period. We'll be back. Back live, third period action. Heropoulos trailing Trost of Michigan 3-1 in the heavyweight division on an NCAA day in which Dan Gable's Iowa Hawkeyes as 1 point goes to Heropoulos for the escape on a day when Dan Gable's Hawkeyes have won 5 of 10 competition for individual championships.
We've got a real tight match here, and there's 2 points. That's a big 2 points by Kirk Trost from Michigan. He jumps ahead 5-2.
Major 2 points with less than 2 minutes remaining now.
He was very quick on that. That was a sweep single leg. Heropoulos just didn't stay with him, fell to his hands, and it was easy for Kirk to get behind.
Stay in.
Heropoulos taking it out of bounds and move to the middle of the mat with 1:03 remaining here in the third period.
Now Trost will try and keep the pressure on. He will not let him off the mat if he can help it. Ideally, he'll break him down to his belly, and of course that's where he'd like to put him.
Reset.
Trost leading 5-2. 1 minute remaining in the heavyweight match. Final match of the NCAA championships from Iowa City. They put on quite a show here. They've done it so well. Their first time ever for the finals. Our congratulations to Athletic Director Bump Elliott and the entire athletic staff here at the University of Iowa.
Trost doing an excellent job following, staying with his opponent. He's wrestling very smart, and of course he wants this title after runner-up last year. 1 point, he gave that up. 1 point, that closes the gap a little bit, but he's still in control. He's also got a riding time besides his 5-3 lead.
Heropoulos won it last night, the semifinal match. In the final few seconds, a takedown would tie it up.
Don't go off.
But he has that riding time lead that would give him the extra point. It would not tie it up because he does have the riding time.
Sit.
Kirk Trost in great position.
Really good strategy on the part of Trost.
That's right. You always have to watch if you're riding on top that you don't get reversed, and that, of course, is 2 points. Now, Heropoulos is in a bad position. He's on his belly. Trost may spin around and get another takedown. He's close to it.
Final seconds. And Kirk Trost of Michigan is the NCAA heavyweight champion.
That's okay.
Defeats Heropoulos 6-3. John Heropoulos of Iowa State. But what a day for the Iowa Hawkeyes. They lost one dual meet this past year. They've lost usually one a year. Dan Gable has. No more, as a matter of fact, as we look at the heavyweight champion. But they won 5 of 10 matches. They came into the NCAA finals with only 8 competitors. They had 6 in the finals and 5 of them won. Let's take a look at all the winners. At 118 pounds, Bonomo of very famous wrestling family. Penrith of Iowa. Jimmy Jordan, defending champion, did it again at 134 pounds. Dresser of Iowa. Heffernan of Iowa. Douglas of Oklahoma, defending champion from a year ago, also a winner. And we'll be back and have a quick word with Dan Gable in just a few moments, as the awards will be presented, but we are going to talk to the man who's made magic here in Iowa and in the sport of wrestling. With me now, the man I met in Munich, West Germany, 1972. I'd heard of the name, and all of a sudden there he was, leading the American athletes to an unprecedented 3 gold medals, 2 silvers, and a bronze. Dan Gable, you win 1 at 149.5. An NCAA record today. You have 5 individual champions. Before that, it was 4. What in the world is there left for you to do, Dan, at the age of 37?
Well, I tell you, you look at breaking records, but that's only part of it. You mostly deal with human beings, and I've been dealing very closely with these athletes and the people that are around my program, and because of that, there's so much meaning. I get into these people as much as I get into the winning aspect of it. So to me, it's not so much the records and the wins and losses. It's just the characters that you deal with every day, and just to look around and see the people in the stands and know that, hey, that's because of you, and
it's
that's
what I
what's great.
remember too, Dan, in Munich. You were so into all the other athletes. You worked with them. You made them work maybe a little harder than they would really want to. You got more out of them. But today you had to be particularly happy for Dwayne Goldman, I would think.
Particularly happy, yes. When you leave and you end your career, you want to leave it on a great note. And being in the NCAA finals 3 times and not winning any of those times, there's a lot of pressure on that young man. And to be able to come out here and win and right here really showed some character, and that's a tremendous way to finish the tournament.
Okay, 9 consecutive winning season, ties an NCAA record. What's ahead for you? You're going to be around for that 10th, but I'm sure of that.
Well, we're going to go for it. There's going to be some great competition, just like there was supposed to have been great competition this year, and there was great competition. But at the same time, I got to worry about my team. I'll let the other coaches worry about their other teams. And if I can just worry about my guys, then I think we'll have a good chance to win 10.
Dan, congratulations. Seems I'm spending my career congratulating you. But again, a great day here at home. It had to feel good for Dan Gable to win with 5 individual champions today here in Iowa City. We'll be back. For the University of Iowa, it was a tremendous day. They wrapped up the team title, the NCAA Wrestling Championships, before the finals began. And then in the finals, they really came through at 126 pounds. Brad Penrith, Kevin Dressler won at 142, Heffernan at 150, Marty Kessler 167, and Dwayne Goldman at 190 pounds. Dwayne Goldman had tried 3 times before. He captured it today. The coordinating producer of ABC's Wide World of Sports is Dennis Lewin. NCAA Wrestling Championships produced by Mike Pearl, directed by Doug Wilson. Shirley Muldowney feature produced by Joel Feld. Coordinating director Carol Letty. Technical directors Mike Blazo and Les Weiss. Associate directors Earl Fryman, Robbie Cowan, Joe Novello, Vince D'Addario. Stay tuned now for ABC's World News Saturday and your local news. Be sure to join us tomorrow for the Atlanta 500 stock car race live, except on the West Coast. Start to finish coverage begins at 1:30 Eastern, 12:30 Central and Pacific. Tomorrow, over most of these ABC stations, the Atlanta, Columbus, and Macon, Georgia areas will not see the Atlanta 500 telecast. Travel arrangements made through and a promotional fee paid by United Airlines, now serving 13 cities throughout Asia and the Pacific. United, a fresh breeze across the Pacific. For Mike Lieberman, all of our ABC people, this is Frank Gifford saying so long from Iowa City.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition. This has been ABC's Wide World of Sport.
Brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. By Honda Power Equipment. Lawn mowers, lawn tractors, and portable generators. Made easy and made to last. And by Delta Faucet. They're first because they last.
This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television.
From the depths of